everyone. It's been a few days or a week or two. It's pretty much been vacation time for me. I've been out and about a little bit, but today we are going back into the video reviews and we're going to return to the 2023 Advent calendar by Mr. and Mrs. Rum. And the rum we're going to be looking at today is the very interesting rum by Sunshine and Sons Distillery, which is called the Maroochy River Barrel Aged Cane, which, when you think about it, doesn't always make as much sense as you think it does. The Sunshine and Sons doesn't really have very much details on the website that I can actually tell you about. I think it was formed around 2019 or so, because their first products, gins of course, started to come out around 2020, and they did have some rums over and above coming out every now and then. They do have a sister company that is much better known called Nil Desperandum, which is the name of a pub that was opened, well, quite a long time ago, I think in Mumbai. But we are going to talk about them some other time with one of their rums, so we're not going to get too far into the weeds on this one. The important thing to understand here is two things. One, they have two huge stills, which is very unusual for Australia, for these little companies that tend to have, like a few hundred litres of a pot still or a hybrid still. Here they've got a 2,500 litre spirit still called Sarah, and then another 6,000 litre wash still that they call Maria. These were named after a guy called James Costar, who was the licensee of Mumbai's first pub, which was the Nil Desperandum. Now, another thing that is very interesting about this rum, and I'm going to call it that no matter what the two-year age rule in Australia is like, another very interesting thing about it is that it's made from sugarcane juice. It's not made from molasses. In that sense, it's actually quite unusual. You tend to find Australian distilleries experimenting with fermentation and with wash and, using the lees again, dunder and muck and Jamaican style and what have you. But it's not often you actually see the cane juice varietals coming out there. So that by itself makes this quite interesting. It's also at 4 to 9%. I don't know how long the fermentation has taken place. It does use wild yeast, so natural fermentation all the way. And then it's aged for about 20 months in ex-bourbon barrels that at one point held sherry. Now, with all those stats, you'd think that you'd have something quite interesting here, but the truth is it's not really. Part of the issue for me is that it really is kind of faint. So when you nose it, you can certainly tell it's a rum. There's no question about that. So that automatically kind of like puts it way ahead of some of that alcoholic water that I see Canadian rums like to pass off as rum. But there is a lot. It's really difficult to get to grips with the nose that you get right off the bat. So you do tend to get some very light fruits. You get pears, you get grapes, you get a little bit of lychees and a little bit of watermelon and so on. There's a bit of salt in there, which is very nice. Over and above all of that, though, it doesn't really display much of an agricole style. There's certainly some winishness in there that may be the holdover from the sherry influence on the barrels. Yet it fades very quickly, which is quite unusual for 49%. I mean, it's just like almost close to 50 and above, right? So what's going on? The other thing is that the tastes are very similar. You do get some honey, you do get some salt, there's some brininess, some pineapple, there's a little bit of lemony taste to it that I really quite like. Overall, the rum itself is also kind of semi-sweet. It is a bit sharp, of course, and the salt comes out a bit better now. But overall, there just isn't enough to come to grips with, and that to me is a bit of a problem. Plus, if it's a cane juice rum, I'm really surprised that I'm not seeing more of this herbaceous nature to it that some people like to say is a characteristic of the agricoles. So overall, I like the rum. It's not too bad, but I think it's a work in progress. It needs more work. It really, really does. And there is a Nil Desperandum at 51%. That's a little bit older. I think it's just over 3 years, so they can actually call it rum that I'd like to try. I'm sure I'm going to get around to it sooner or later. For the moment, though, this one is a work in progress that I'd like to see the next few editions of to see how it improves, because I think it can. But beyond that, it is a rum. It's quite nice. I'm going to score it about 78, 79 points. And for the moment, for today's edition of the Australian Rum Calendar, this is pretty much it. Talk to you later and enjoy your drinking. Take care. Bye-bye.